Okay guys, fairways and hybrids now. So another very important thing. Everybody's touting, my fairway woods do this, my hybrids do that, so on and so forth. Okay, so here's the long and short of it. When you get to your irons and you get to your, now that you've had your irons, which is the bulk of everything, and you're comfortable with your driver, which is your big setup club, now you're trying to look at your longer approach shots. The longer approach shots are very important because if you make a bad drive, you don't hit a great one, it can give you some ability to be able to recover so that you can keep your scores at where they are and minimize mistakes. Okay, most importantly, it creates a gap between your longest iron, make it a 6, right, and your driver. There's a gap that's going to be between those two things. So when you go to get fit for it, make sure that you're bringing the longest iron in your bag and your driver and establish the gap at what it is, literally. And then at that point, each one of those fairway woods, if you're comfortable with fairway woods or hybrids, whatever it is, whatever you're comfortable with, make sure that it fits that gap. And if the gap is small and you only need one golf club to be able to potentially fit that club, you can always add another one later. Right, as you start to improve, as you start to make things go better. But if that's where you are and your reality is I have 30 yards between my longest iron and my driver, you need one that's going to be 15 yards in front of that iron, and that's it. Then at that point, now you can go out and there's something you can expand on. If you don't need to waste extra golf clubs in that area and save it for maybe wedges or a chipper or something along those lines, it's absolutely going to help you become a better golfer. That's what I would encourage you to do. Don't get sucked into this whole thing that I need a driver. I need a 3-wood, I need a 5-wood, I need a 3 hybrid. No, you don't. Not unless you can really make great contact and you can have that definitive, you can validate those definitive distance differences between each one of those golf clubs. Okay, that's the reality of it all. Okay, so I encourage you, absolutely, if you have time and this is something of interest, go to your local fitter or something along those lines, establish that gap to make sure you have the right stuff. You might be able to eliminate a golf club altogether in your bag. That's just not useful for you. Okay, so again, that's the idea here. Right? The next thing we're going to talk about is wedges, and then we're going to go on to putters after that. Okay? Thanks for listening. Okay, so now wedges. Okay, very another big subject, right? So now recapping, we've gone and we've taken the time to get our irons correct. We've drivers, fairway woods, and hybrids and such. Let's talk about wedges. Okay, so if we've taken the time now to find the design, make it a middle game improving golf club, and with all the challenges that one has in their swing, now all of a sudden we said, you know what, I've always played, my irons down to a pitching wedge, and now my sand wedge and my other wedges have all been sort of from different places, right? Now this is where it gets a little bit hairy, all right? And I hear a lot of things about appearance, but again, we're going to talk about that in a moment. So now if we've taken the time to fit you for a pitching wedge, and now it's one of the easier golf clubs to hit, and you can hit it consistently, right, with the shafts that we've chosen, and we fit lie angle for you, and we've taken lots of things to an account, and honestly you hit these irons great, and then you go ahead and you add an a la carte wedge that's not fit for you at all from the selection of lots of a la carte wedges out there, then you're absolutely fooling yourself into believing that it's going to wind up being a good thing. You're going to probably still struggle with your short game. Right? I don't know what to tell you about that. So if you full swing a 52-degree wedge, or otherwise known as a gap wedge, a sand wedge, a lob wedge, and all these things, it's not really designed to do that, especially your again, for lack of any other explanation, your Vokey wedges, your more player type of Cleveland wedges. So anyway, they're not really meant to be full swung at all. So at that point, if you've had a game improving golf club, and again, going back to the pitching wedge, you hit it great. Why wouldn't you take the time, if you're going to full swing all of those golf clubs, to include as many of those down into your set as possible? Because they do have the same bounce as any of these a la carte wedges. And if anything, it's going to give you the same forgiveness, even in a greenside bunker, that you would get off of a full shot off of your 7-iron. So at that point, don't make this game harder. It doesn't make any sense. Use a common sense approach. If you've taken the time to, out of all the irons that are available out there, to narrow it down to this, with this shaft and so on and so forth, and now you buy something that's not even relative, I just, again, it's a tough one. I would encourage you more to look at that as a more viable option to lowering your scores rather than adding things that, again, add more confusion. Okay, now we're going to talk about putters. And this is going to be a tough subject because it's all over the place, and it always is. But here comes everyone. Putters. So, on the subject of putters, okay, very deep subject. Now with the variations in grips that you can go out there from, you know, the pencil grips, the saw grips, the left-hand lows, the side-by-sides, all these other things that get somebody to be more machine-like when they're putting. This is a tough subject, okay? In my 16 years of professionally fitting people, I find the putter to be probably one of the more difficult things to be able to fit. And not for any of the reason that there's not great designs out there. A lot of times I find it's just familiarity, and people insist on going with something that looks like a Ping Answer style putter. But if it doesn't fit the type of putter that you are, you have inconsistencies of hitting the middle of the face, there are much better designs out there. But I get it all the time. Well, it's ugly and it's distracting. I don't know what to tell you. If you want to get better at putting, you may have to go away from what you currently use or what you like looking at. I'm sorry to tell you that. Be the bearer of bad news there. However, now going away from that for a moment, because I know that's going to cause a problem. In the end, look, you know, length of putter winds up becoming a big challenge as well. You know, the length of an average putter is 35 inches. That's considered a men's standard. So the men's standard 35-inch putter was that length, so that when it's put into inside a bag, an average 35-inch putter will not touch the top of the bag, and it won't wear anything out. That's the only reason that it was made at 35 inches long, aside from the manufacturers being able to say, hey, today we're making 35-inch putters. All right, but going forward, ironically enough, when during my years, I've sold more 34-inch putters and shorter than I have 35s. So what's funny is, why is that? Because honestly, people generally fit into a shorter putter across the board, and it's not a negative thing. You just have to get the proportions right, you have to get the balance right, and it has to feel good to you. I've noticed a lot of putters now that the long trend is starting to go away and become USGA illegal. If you don't play in USGA sanctioned events, or an event where there's a local rule that prevents you from it, I don't know why you wouldn't. Because if it made your life better because of back problems or some kind of injury or something along those lines that makes it uncomfortable for you to bend over, why would you take that away from yourself, a comfortable, useful tool away from yourself, if you're not playing in anything that's sanctioned in some fashion or form? I just don't understand it. But anyway, again, if that, you know, you want to change because you want to change, okay, great. So let's talk about these now mid-length long putters and such like that. All right, whatever works. And that's what's making it tough. So now you're talking about putters that have gone as long as, you know, 45, 48 inches long and taller, down to, I've seen them as short as 31. I have a 31 and a half inch putter that I used for years. So it's off the charts. You know, again, nobody cares what kind of putter you use. Nobody cares what length putter you use. All they care about is whether or not you can make putts. If you can make putts and the putter works for you, I don't care if it's ugly, I don't care if it's the most beautiful thing, it doesn't matter. Just be able to put it in a hole. So the way to be able to do that is try everything. Again, we're going to talk further about putters later on. We're just talking about some real basics now. I'm going to go even further into this as time goes on. And we'll talk about grips, grip size, balance of putters. You know, so be on the lookout for it. It might actually wind up being the next one, because I have a feeling this section of it is going to probably cause more questions than anything else. Okay, so I hope that's an idea. Be different. Try things that are not normal if you really want to get a better putter for yourself. Why? What's the worst that would happen? If you try one that's the exact opposite and you rely on those same cliches and excuses as to why you can't be a good putter, and the best part about it is if you're in a place that you can test them, you just don't have to buy it. All right, but other than that, keep an open mind, and you never know. It could wind up being one of the best putters out, you know, that you've ever owned. Okay, so anyway, thanks for listening. Again, all feedback on everything from the video to content and anything under the sun, please comment and let me know. Okay, thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon. Bye.